Hello my friends, welcome back! Today I am with Master Jakub, new episode, lots of the blades, and we're gonna be talking about the demon sword made by famous sword maker Muramasa. So, let's get started. So Master Jakub, what do we have today? It looks really amazing.
We have here a short sword or otanto made by a famous swordsmith Sengo Muramasa from Kuwana city in Ise province. It's contemporary Mie prefecture in Japan. And Muramasa is one of most famous Japanese swordsmiths. It's necessary to tell that it's not one of the best Japanese swordsmiths, but it's a lot of ghost stories about his swords, and for this reason we should speak not only about Japanese sword as weapon, but about spiritual aspect of Japanese sword.
And do we know when the sword was made?
Yes, here is Sayagaki or inscription by a famous Kanzan Sato sensei. Kanzan Sato is one of the most famous Japanese sword experts of 20th century. It's one of founders of Nihonbitsu Doken Hozon Kyokai, or Society for Preservation of Traditional Japanese Sword. And here is datation Tenbun. The Tenbun period is start of 16th century.
16th century.
Inscription is Muramasa, Jidai Tenbun. Length of the blade, datation Showa period, and here is a sign of Kanzan Sato sensei. Of course, this sword is with Nihonbitsu Doken Hozon Kyokai, or this sword society origami kantesho, or paper of authenticity.
Do we have any idea how many swords Muramasa made back in the day?
Muramasa is a perfect swordsmith. His swords are quite expensive, but it's quite a lot of swords made by Muramasa. For example, some swordsmiths made only few swords. For example, about 20 swords is thriving from some very famous Kamakura period swordsmiths. But I suppose that it's not so rare, but it's very high quality and of course very popular.
So maybe first, before we're gonna open it, you can maybe tell us about the spiritual energy, or what you say about the demon.
Japanese sword is a very important part of Japanese culture. For example, one of three imperial insignia is sword. It's a sword, mirror, and magatama jewel. Swords represent to be brave, magatama to be benevolent, and mirror to be wise. And of course, sword was not only weapon of battlefield and samurai no tamashi, or samurai spirit, but also a very important part of Japanese culture and also religion. I have here one sword, my lovely sword for practicing. It's not with historical value, but here is some bonji. It's a Sanskrit ideogram of Fudo Myo-o. Fudo is Achala in Sanskrit. It's Buddhist god, which is good for protection of warriors. So samurai liked it. And if I order horimono or carving on this blade, this sword become not only weapon but something like talisman or amulet,
yes,
protecting his honor. So it's a lot of magic. It's a lot of magic in the world of Japanese sword.
Yes.
This second sword is my personal sword, made by Sagamino Kami Yoshimichi from mid 18th century. And here is so-called horimono. Horimono is carving. In this case, it is kurikara or Sankotsuka Ken with dragon, and it's the same meaning like previous Bonji or Sanskrit character. It is meaning of Fudhomyo, because sword means one of attribute of Fudhomyo, sword, and dragon is rope, second attribute of Fudhomyo.
Very interesting. But these grooves didn't have like any function on the
not for true combat, and it was not only decoration. It is with deep spiritual meaning.
Yes, understand. Very interesting.
For example, this is sword made by Kanezane, and here is inscription Hirano Daimyojin, a very famous god of Hirano shrine. Hirano shrine is in Kyoto, and it is for protecting of imperial family and Kyoto as well. So text like this made sword not only a weapon but a very interesting object of spiritual protecting of his owner. And of course samurai often gave some sword to jinja or terra. It means Shinto or Buddhist shrine. So it is called honoto, and for this reason a lot of high level old swords and armors is well preserved into contemporary days.
And Master Jakub, I noticed that the casing for the sword it's like a little bit different. This is like a wood, and the classic sword is maybe a different one, or
so it's called shirasaya. It's plain fitting only for blade preservation when sword is not in koshirae. Koshirae is usual fitting with tsuba, tsuka, saya, etc. If I remove this small pin called mekugi, I could very easily remove handle and change fitting for swords. It's good for restoration after battles, because it's possible that it's a lot of hakobore or kirikomi or chips in the blades, and for restoration it's better to remove a blade from this fitting. For example, here is some inscription. In this case,
I can see beautiful.
Yamato no Kuniju Fujiwara Kanezane, and datation era Tenbun and name of honor. It's very nice.
What was the date
sword
on this written?
Tenbun period. It's about Muromachi period, 15th century.
15th century. Wow, beautiful.
Nice, very well preserved.
This is perfect for the transportation, right? You can put it into
yes,
this.
Yes.
And, very interesting.
And in Japanese culture is a lot of speaking about Hinken and Yoto. Hinken means good luck bringing sword, and Yoto is something like demon sword or bad luck bloodthirsty sword, and most famous Yoto is Muramasa here.
Ah, okay. Was there Japanese like did they have like a fear if some previous owner was like some kind of bad guy? They had like a fear if the sword will hold like a.
It is a lot of thinking in Japanese culture about it. For example, a woman is afraid of old combs because comb is very strongly connected with hair of previous owner, and you should receive fate of previous owner. It's same like in jewelry, so for this reason old jewelry should be very cheap in Japan, even if it's good quality, because Japanese is afraid to bring
the curse like into the
curse
life
from life of previous owner. But in the case of Muramasa, it's a little bit different. It's a lot of generation of Muramasa from 15th to 16th century. This one is second generation, most famous one. and according to tradition, Muramasa was almost mad, very violent spirit, and his character should be transmitted to swords which he made. But all of these swords are very high quality and masterpieces.
I can imagine. Can we see this one?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
It's Hirazukuri. Hirazukuri means this kind of blade with very lovely itame and masame hada. It's a pattern of damasking of the steel, and for Muramasa, very typical notare hamon. In case of notare, it's a very big distinction between yaki no kashira, this part of hamon, and yaki no tani, this part of hamon. It's something like sinusoida. For Muramasa, it's typical so-called kagami hamon. It means that hamon is same in the both sides of the blade. And last one, very typical pattern of Muramasa swords is so-called tanagobara, tanagobara nakago. Tanago is a kind of fish.
Holds very well.
And this is shape of belly of this fish. In this shape. And here is Nijime signature, two-character signature of Muramasa.
Such interesting details. Do you ever plan to put some kind of fitting on this, like a handle? Or...
it's some distinction between European and Japanese collector. Japanese sword collector prefer only shirasaya for blades, and European like koshirae or usual fitting like this. Of course, if you are, for example, Iaido, Iaijutsu, Kenjutsu student of master, you prefer or you need
to make it functional.
Make it functional, but since in Japan sword is something like art object, usually Japanese collector collect his swords in this shirasaya or plain wooden scraba. It's made from honoki. It's kind of Japanese magnolia.
Okay. I was wondering about it. Very interesting.
Very good wood for shirasaya and koshira as well.
And Master Jakub, if some person would actually want to buy such a similar sword, what's the estimated price?
For short sword like this, you should find some in Satibis Christis Bonams about $25,000 for short sword, and
without fitting and anything.
Yes,
just like...
of course, and about twice price for long sword.
Wow.
And it's not so. It's not. So small amount of sword of his, but there are very interesting story about signature of Muramasa.
Okay.
Founder of Tokugawa Bakufu, Tokugawa Ieyasu win a battle of Sekigahara in year 16 and become ruler of all of the Japan. But his family Tokugawa had a very wrong experience with Muramasa blades. His grandfather Kiyoyasu, his father Hirotada was killed or had a serious injury with Muramasa blades. Tokugawa Ieyasu, when was child, had a small injury from kogatana or small knife
really?
made by Muramasa, and after mentioned Battle of Sekigahara, in inspection of spare of one of his fighter, which was very successful for stabbing through the enemy's helmet and head as well.
Wow.
Made some injury and told, "Oh, I suppose that this was Muramasa blade," and it was. So for this reason, especially in start of Tokugawa period, it's from 1603 to 1868 year. So in the first, especially in the first half of 17th century, it was very strictly forbidden to own Muramasa sword. And for example, magistrate of Nagasaki was forced to commit seppuku because was owner of more than 20 Muramasa blades.
Oh, seriously? Wow.
So for this reason, because Muramasa swords were expensive, signature of Muramasa has been often removed from nakago or tank. So become a mume or sword without signature, or it was removed only first kanji or ideogram from nakago, mura, and to removing character masa was added character of mune. So by this way Muramasa became Masamune, founder of Soshuden sword making. And maybe most famous Japanese swordsmiths as well. So in Japanese folk culture, Masamune was god, and Muramasa was devil in the world of Japanese swords. So it was reason for legend that Muramasa was student of Masamune, but it was about 100 years between these two swordsmiths, so it was in the fact very impossible.
Beautiful. Is there something else you would like to add about this sword, or something else in general?
So I suppose that about the legend of Yoto and Hintken, I have to say that sword is not danger at all. Sword is danger if my hand cut with this sword. And ruler of this hand is my mind. So if mind is strong and good, even Muramasa will be good sword.
Yes.
And if the mind is poisoned with some wrong emotion, even Masamune sword should become Yoto or demonic sword. It's a lot of ghost stories about Muramasa. In a lot of stories and legends, owner of Muramasa without reason kill a lot of people because these blades are bloodthirsty, not only enemies but family and friends as well.
Oh, wow.
So it's something like bad ominous sword. But for this reason, some is historical facts, some is stories made, for example, for Kabuki theater in Edo period, in 17th, 18th, 19th century. For this legend, Muramasa is so famous. But in the fact, it's a sword with very high artistic value, and I suppose that like a true weapon should be very deadly, because Muramasa swords is very famous for sharpness and cutting ability. Maybe one reason why Muramasa legend start is that in old Japan was very popular, and a lot of samurais had Muramasa sword. For this reason, it was quite high possibility that somebody will be killed with Muramasa sword. In Mikawa no Kuni, it's place in which Tokugawa family lived as well. So maybe for this reason, so much incident become with Muramasa blades.
Really, I think we have all the stories, guys. But if you still want to know more, you can definitely let us know in the comment section below, right? But I think for today, that's it. So, thank you one for watching. Big thanks to the Master Jakub. Share, like, comment, subscribe, and
Sarabaja.
see you next time.